Hi everyone! Today I'll be covering the second of my humidity videos, which is what are the recommended humidity ranges for the most commonly kept tortoise species. If you haven't already seen the first video on why humidity is important for your tortoise, then it's worth checking this out as it gives an overview of the benefits, risks, how to test humidity, what affects humidity, etc. And it's a good starting point. And as usual, I'll leave the links for these videos in the description for you. So on with this video. The topics that I'll be covering are a brief summary of the research behind these humidity ranges, the guidelines used for humidity ranges, then we move on to the recommended humidity for the different species, and finally the humidity required from hatchling up to adults. Before I launch straight into the recommended humidity ranges, it's worth mentioning that this is often a heavily debated topic, and if you do any research on this, you'll find very differing views from the experts, and often it leaves you feeling even more confused than when you started. So the ranges that I'll be recommending are based on those organisations and experts that have done extensive research over many years in each of the different tortoise species' natural habitats, in the different microclimates that they have in the wild, as well as readings that will have been taken at the tortoise's height. Don't be tempted to rely on humidity averages from weather stations, as these are misleading and they give the humidity averages over a wider region, which also includes areas that aren't inhabited by tortoises. Plus, these sensors from the weather stations are positioned much higher above the ground than the tortoise would be. As some of you will be aware, in the wild, some tortoise species can be found across a wide region or in different countries. So take the Greek or Mediterranean spur-thighed tortoise for example. As you can see, some tortoises will be found in coastal regions where the humidity will be higher, compared to the humidity the identical subspecies will be experiencing further inland. Tortoises don't stay in one spot or hidden in burrows, undergrasses, etc. for the whole day every day, but will venture out in the search for food, water or a mate, and have been known to roam several miles in one day in their home range in search of these things. And they'll often experience varying degrees of humidity and temperature over the course of a day, week, month or year, as it moves around its natural habitat. So the humidity ranges that I'll be covering for each of the species are averages over the course of a year, and is a good starting point for our captive raised tortoises as we try to mimic the humidity they would experience in the wild. Some keepers take this one step further and they'll vary the humidity depending on the seasons that they would experience in the wild, but for now we'll keep this simple and just look at the averages. So for desert species, and this includes leopard, sulcutta, Indian star and radiated tortoises, the ideal range would be between 50 and 60% relative humidity, and no lower than 40% and no higher than 70%. And for the Mediterranean and Russian species, we have the Greek or Mediterranean spur-thighed tortoise, the Hermann's, marginated and Russian or Horsfield's tortoise. So the ideal range for all of these is between 50 to 60% relative humidity, and once again no lower than 40% relative humidity and no higher than 70% relative humidity. And for the tropical rainforest species, we have the redfoot and yellowfoot tortoises, and for both of these the ideal range is between 80 to 90% relative humidity and no lower than 70% relative humidity and no higher than 95% relative humidity. Temperatures and humidity go hand in hand, so it's important to make sure the temperatures are also correct for your particular tortoise species. If you've done any research into the suitable humidity ranges for your tortoise, you may well have come across the 80-80 rule, and this simply means 80% relative humidity along with the temperatures being 80 degrees Fahrenheit. This is a method adopted by some keepers for hatchlings to prevent pyramiding. I personally don't follow this as I haven't yet found any scientific evidence to support this theory, and I don't feel comfortable with the risks that I've read about in this high humidity environment. This is obviously just my opinion, but feel free to do your own research and draw your own conclusions, of course. Next, we can move on to, should humidity vary depending on the age of your tortoise? The simplest answer to this is the tortoise requires these humidity ranges at any age for that particular species. However, as your tortoise reaches its adult size, it is less critical, but it's still advisable to offer humidity as close to these recommended ranges as possible. Outdoor enclosures are generally more difficult to control the humidity in, depending on your climate of course. So as your tortoise grows and starts making more and more use of its outdoor enclosure, you may find the humidity levels are less than ideal for your tortoise, and you'll need to make some adjustments to offer areas of the outdoor enclosure at the preferred humidity ranges. In another of my humidity videos, I'll be going through the different options available to help you offer your tortoise the right humidity levels. I hope you found this video useful, and if you have, please click the thumbs up, share with your tortoise friends, and also subscribe and click the notification button so you don't miss out on any future videos. Thanks for watching.